All right, welcome to Heart Arts, where we make art that has heart. We are going to make handmade beads for Mother's Day today using air dry clay. What you do is you take just a little chunk off of whatever you've bought it in a tub or in a brick, and you take a little piece of it and start to roll it in your hands. And what you'll get is a small little ball of clay here, and you want about 15 of them to start with. So I'll make about 15 here, and you want them about the same size. If they're too big or too small compared to each other, it will get a little weird, like that one would be way too big, so I need to break that. I can roll it, and it doesn't have to be a perfect ball because we are going to actually smush it, so that is totally fine. You just want it to be somewhat of a spherical shape. And I'm going to make 3 rows of 5, so I know that I have 15 and that none have rolled away or that I've lost any. And then when I'm done, I quickly put away the extra. That way it does not dry out. This stuff is very finicky, and you'll waste a whole tub of it very easily. Almost done. Now I can see that some of them are different sizes, but they're not a huge difference. I don't have one that looks like a golf ball and then one that looks like a little marble. So most of them are pretty similar. And all I do is I take one and I'm going to smash it down with my thumb. I make sure it comes back up off the table okay. And then I have plates that I'm going to set them on. If it tears like this, you have to restart. So you want to be very careful. It might even make it easier to do the smushing right on a plate. Let's try that instead here. Just put the ball and smash it. Yes, that works a lot better. And it's up to you how far down you push. These are all going to be handmade beads when we're done. Now I used white clay so I can actually paint it and design it. I put monograms, so that would be like mom's initials or the family's initials on there if I wanted to. I can make some different colors and others all the same to make certain ones stand out. So I need all of these smushed down, and I'm peeling them up afterwards to make sure they don't get stuck to the plate. And that they'll dry evenly because these are air dry. You don't have to put them in a kiln or in an oven. And I have heard of other people doing that, but because we're doing this in class, I don't really have access to an oven to cook 100 different students' beads with 15 for each student. That would be a lot of baking. Okay, and then I would actually take a needle, and I'm going to decide which end is up on each petal, and I'm going to poke all the way through. You can wipe off the extra clay on the other side. You can spin the needle if you're a little worried about it, and then I leave that hole there so that way next week when it is completely dry we can paint them and then string them. Depending what paint you pick and the dry time it has, you could have this done within 2 days if you have class back to back or however your setup is. You could go and have lunch and come back. If you have a heater on near them, that would help them dry a lot quicker. So when we return, these will be dry and we will begin to paint. Alright, well, they dry for about 24 hours. And now I'm going to take watercolors and start to paint them. They dry pretty quickly, so if you want to thread them on the same day, you can. You're just going to go in and start applying different colors. It's up to you if you want to do the same one, same color on all your beads, or if you want to do a different design. I had my students do 15 beads, and I thought they could probably pick one as their main one, maybe the biggest one as their centerpiece, and then go out from there. And then if there was ones they didn't like, they didn't have to use it. back over. I've been doing just kind of playing around 2 layers, especially on the part where the thumbprint actually is. So I thought that was most important. That's what people are going to be looking at for the most part. So there is a pink one. I did a blue one just a minute ago. If they're kind of like this where they're curved, it kind of looks like a flower petal, so that would be really pretty to play around and kind of play around with that idea. Now, because these are watercolors, if the mom wears them in the rain, if you spill a drink on them, they are going to start to bleed. So I'm debating about doing acrylic spray on them or some kind of matte finish, something that would seal it in and I wouldn't have to worry about ruining mom's clothes. Definitely going to send a letter home with them, letting moms know that this is painted with watercolors either way, even if I seal it, just so they know to be careful and kind of make sure they wear it on days that are nice out but not rainy and things like that. Wouldn't want to ruin anyone's clothes. Now the other idea I had was to leave them plain. So I've got I have a greenish one, pinkish one, a little bit of a blue purple. You could actually do a design. So if I started out with my yellow, and you could paint the whole thing yellow, you wouldn't have to be very careful about this part because I'm starting with such a light color, it's okay. And then I could go in and take some orange and start to make a little circle in the middle. And that's going to need a minute to dry. You can always use your finger to kind of take some of the water out. Add some extra color in there to give it that pop again. So I've got yellow with orange in the middle, and then when that orange dries, a little bit more here, I can go in with some red also and put like a little red center in there. So you've kind of got this rainbow started red, orange, yellow as it goes out. On the back, you could use yellow again to make it a solid yellow. You could use the orange or the red. It's up to you, but I would do one side at a time with this. And I would do 2 layers. I'm going to go ahead and just do the edge here with the red since I already have it on the paintbrush and kind of see what it'll look like on the edge up here. Reminds me of that candy that changes colors when it's in your mouth. Kind of goes back and forth. See here if it'll bleed or if it'll be okay when I flip it over. Now the students were supposed to put holes in each bead. If you notice that they forgot one or it's not showing as well, you may want to go in and poke the hole again just in case. Nope, that stayed pretty well. Might be a little drier than I thought. The colors are turning a little pastel, and I think that if I let these dry maybe a second day, they wouldn't be doing that, because this is actually a brighter pink. I'll paint it on the paper here so you can kind of see this is what it's supposed to look like, but because it's got the powdery residue, it is actually picking up on that. There, it's finally doing it, but this is layer 3 or 4 now on this one, so that doesn't really help. When you have time issues and things like that with your students, you want to be able to do this quickly. So that way they can make sure they get done with it. And then I'm also trying to find time where they could actually make a card also, so mom can have both. So there's that. Anytime I set it on the paper, it starts to pick it back up, so I have to let it sit there. See what it'll do. I'd like to go back in with this orange here and see if I can. It's a little bit, actually, a little bit more orange around the center there. Just kind of play around with it. If you do things like this, I would definitely start with a lighter color. So if you wanted to do, that would be the warm color example. If you wanted to do cool colors, Start with your lightest color, which should be the green. And I would do a more grassy yellow green like this, like we did on our other bead. That way it's light enough you can build on it and it won't mess with the other colors. So there's our green, and then the next color would be blue. You don't want to jump straight to purple. Sometimes it'll turn brown depending on what colors you're using. So I'll get a little bit of blue. That's what it's supposed to look like. We'll see how dark it stays. Let it dry for a minute. It might even turn turquoise for you, who knows. And then when that's dry, I'll add the purple one in. So once you have all of these decorated the way you want, you're happy with them, you can go and start to string them. And I'm debating right now between putting other beads on it or just having these, or the students can just put one on it as a charm, basically, and then they can have the other beads to do with as they wish. They can kind of pick their favorite one. Since these were so easy to make, I didn't want them to just make one or two. I wanted to give them enough time to play around with it, see what they like. Like I said, you could try and make a flower out of them if you string them properly. I really like the color blue, so I'm going to do quite a few blue ones, especially because Winford is blue. That is our school color. There we go. And again, you can just keep going back and doing layers and layers. And it is kind of calming. The students can kind of sit there and do layers and layers until they're happy with it. My blue and green are dry. Let's try some purple here. That's a little bit too light. There we go. Do just a little bit right in the center. And so it's got that succession again. Depending on how you did it, you could actually make a bracelet and a necklace. It's kind of up to you what you prefer, what kind of look you're going for. The whole point is that it's got their thumbprint on it. It's their bead that they personally made for their mom. There's no one else that could have made a bead like this. My only concern is I did have a student that was absent during this class, so I need to find time to have them come in and make theirs real quick, so that way it is still their thumbprint. I didn't want to make it for them to catch them up or anything. I didn't think that was right. This Mother's Day gift is supposed to be really personal, so it's not like I could start it for them and then set it all up. The most I could do is maybe roll some of the little clay pieces and have them sitting on a plate ready for them, and then they could come in and do the thumbprint and the needle. But again, it doesn't take that long, so I'd like them to be able to make the whole thing, to be able to tell Mom this is something that I did from start to finish and I didn't have any help, and you know, I decided on the colors and the arrangement. Everything can be theirs. That's the only reason why I was thinking not to add other beads in between these, because I really wanted it to be just theirs personal artwork. But it would look really pretty as spacers basically in between them, so you could actually see this a little bit better. And then the bracelet wouldn't be one-sided or heavy on that one side if you had some. So I'm going to play around with a couple designs and things like that to put them together and show them to my students and let them kind of decide what they would like to do as their final. Give them some different choices, so they really feel like they came up with the whole thing on their own. So I've got about 4 left here. I'm going to finish those, let them dry, maybe do a couple more layers, especially of that pink because it's pretty light in some of them. I like the darker one better. And then we'll kind of play around with stringing them up. I hope that the next time you make art, you can put a little heart into it and have fun. Thanks for stopping by, and don't forget to hit the subscribe and like buttons.